Hi guys, welcome back. It's Professor Hank, and in this video I'm going to build for you an Android app that uses fragments. Okay, and so to start off with, we'll go over a little bit of background on what fragments are, how they're useful, and why you might want to use them in the first place. And then I'll show you a quick little drawing of the architecture that we're going to build, and then I'll start writing some code. Okay, and for the coding parts where I'm typing stuff out, because I'm going to be typing up a lot of stuff from scratch, I'll try to fast forward through the boring parts, and try to keep the video as short as I possibly can. Right. Problem is that Android programming, there's so much to do. It's hard to do anything quickly. So I'll try not to have it bogged down too much by you watching me type out every single little XML tag that exists. Okay. All right, but I'll make sure to pause so you can see the screen full of code, and when I need to explain stuff, I'll be sure to include the explanations for you. Okay, so anyway, let's take a look at fragments. Okay, so um, if we go to the overview, okay, from the Android developer's website, you'll see that a fragment is a reusable portion of your app's UI. Okay, so they're representing that. So fragments allow you to basically make your app's user interface be modular. Okay, and you can you know use them for that whole idea of code reuse, taking a modular approach to your software design and all that. So fragments, they define and manage their own layouts. They have their own life cycle, which is related to an activity life cycle, um, but it's not exactly 100% the same. Okay, they can handle their own input events, and they can't live on their own. Okay, they can't live on their own. They have to be hosted by an activity, right? So you need to have a host activity that normally activities, they correspond to a screen. Okay, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to break that screen up by using fragments to make it more manageable, more modular. Okay, so they have to be hosted by an activity or even another fragment. Okay, um, so fragments introduce modularity and reusability. Right, so instead of having just everything thrown into one screen, okay, everything right into the activities view hierarchy, you can instead kind of split things up into a couple different pieces. Okay, so that way you can say, well, I'm going to focus on my navigation piece, or I'm going to focus on um, the piece that has what I actually want to display to the user, right? So that's what you're kind of seeing here with these images here from the developer's website. Okay, so what I'm going to build for you, it's going to be gross, right? I mean, it's takes too long to build something that looks really nice, and I like just doing simple examples anyway because I like to get you in, get you out, and get you on your way, just so you can see how the tool works. But this is kind of how it's gonna work, right? So we're gonna need to have a main activity, a base activity that it's gonna be hosting the fragment, right? And so I'm gonna build an app that's got two fragments, just so you can see that hey, you can have both pieces side by side. So the activity is gonna have a layout as they do, but that layout's only gonna function as kind of like a container layout, right? And you'll see what that means when we get there. But basically, it's for holding the fragments, I guess you could say. Like I said, you'll see when we get there. It's a container layout. It's not going to have any widgets on its own. It's just going to exist to have a couple of layouts added to it that are going to be used for the fragments. Okay, um, so we're going to have that, and then we'll have as part of the entire screen, right? We'll have two fragments that make up our UI. And then the first fragment will have its own layout. We'll call that, I don't know, we'll call it module one, okay? And it'll have its own layout, and it'll just have a text view and a button defined in that layout, okay? And then the second part of the screen, we'll call that module two. There's gonna have a second fragment, fragment two, That fragment's going to have its own layout, and again, it's just going to have its own text view and its own button. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it so that module 1, when you click the button, it's going to continuously show you a number in that text view. It's going to go like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, just to show you that it's doing something different. And then for the other module, I'll have it cycle through some strings. I'll make an array of strings, and just have it every time you click the button, a new string will pop into that text view. So the app's going to be simple, but it'll show you that, hey, look, yeah, I mean, you can break your UI up into these logical subcomponents. Maybe that's what I should have called them: subcomponent 1, subcomponent 2, whatever. Okay, so that's where we're gonna go with this. Okay. So I've already got Visual Studio started. Okay, and I started a project with the main activity. That's going to be that base activity that I was telling you about. And I'm doing it in Java, and this is just API version 21. Okay, in case you're wondering. And I'll put a link down below in the description so you can download the source code. I'll throw it in Dropbox so you can download it and look at it when it's done if you want to play around with it on your own. Okay, so let's play. Let's get to work here. And so here's what we're going to do. I guess the first thing we'll do is we'll set up the XML file for our main activity, right? Now remember, I was saying that this is going to be a container layout. Okay, so let's go open that up. Okay, and I'm going to do the code in here so you can actually see it. Okay, so let's go ahead and nuke all of this and put the code in by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have 2 fragments. Okay, so that means I'm going to have to add 2 layouts to the activity layout itself. If I only had 1 fragment, then I'd only add 1. If I wanted 3 fragments, 4 fragments, then I would add 4. Okay, now, there's everything in moderation, right? I mean, you don't want to go crazy with fragments. They're useful for splitting a screen up in 1, 2, maybe 3 pieces, but any more than that, it's kind of overkill. All right, but anyway, so I'm going to get started here typing this up. And for the highest level of this hierarchy, I'm going to use the linear layout, right? Like I said, it's going to be simple. It's going to be gross looking. I just want to get something up here working so you can see how it works. Okay. Okay, and set up my layout width and height. I'll just go with the default values. Match parent. That's good enough for this demo. Match parent. Fine. Okay. All right. And let's close that tag and put an end tag here. Awesome. So I'm just going to put in frame layouts. Okay, for this. Okay, so I'm going to need an ID for this. So we will generate that. Gonna name it. We'll call this fragment left. All right, so fragment left will be what I was referring to as module 1. Okay, on the little diagram there. Okay, so we got that, and we'll do wrap content, and we'll do match parent. Okay, and we'll just close it this way. Okay, and so if all I had was 1 fragment for this app, then that would be it. Okay, but I want 2, so I'm going to add another one. Okay, and I'm just going to call this one fragment right. Okay, so boom. There it is. All right, so let me comment this out for just right now, because I want to build each fragment one at a time, right? Okay, so there we go. So this is going to be the foundation for that container. This is the container layout for my main activity. Okay, so let's go ahead and build the first fragment, which I'll call fragment left, or we'll call it left fragment. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a new class. Okay, now I can go down here and you can shortcut this process, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to do it the long way, right? Just so you can see the whole thing here. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so new Java class, and we'll call this left fragment. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to have this thing extend a class called Fragment. Okay, hit Alt-Enter to get the right library imported. Now, you have two options here. Go with androidx.fragment.app. Okay, so we'll grab that, and now what we want to do is we're going to have two methods that make this guy. Okay, so the first method is going to be the Oncreate callback. We're not going to really need to do anything with it for this example. Okay, but we got to have it, so we're going to put it in. Okay, and we have to call our super here. All right, so now this is going to be a new callback. Okay, so for fragments, you have this method that you override called onCreateView. Okay, and onCreateView is where you put all of your code for setting up your different widgets. For getting our text view ready to go, for getting our button ready to go, for getting our listener for the button ready to go. All that stuff is going to go inside of onCreateView, not onCreate. Okay, and this is also going to be where we put code for going through and inflating the XML file that we're going to build for this. Okay, for our layout. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this in here. So public, it has a view return type. Okay, and I should do my import here. Import class. Okay, on create view. 3 parameters. The layout inflator. Okay, a view group, which we'll call container. Okay, and we have to import that class too. Okay, and then we're going to have bundle. Bundle saved instance state. Okay. So that method's good to go. So what we're going to do, we have to get our inflator set up and ready to go. So we're going to say view v equals inflator.inflate r.layout. Okay, this is where we specify which layout the fragment is going to use. Okay, now I haven't written the fragment layout yet, so that's going to be red until I do, and that's going to be okay. Okay, so we're going to do that, we're going to do that, we're going to do that, and we're going to make this third parameter false. Okay, all right. Oops, I should probably type false. Okay, here we go. All right, so let's go ahead and you know what, I'm going to go ahead and build the layout now. We'll come right back to this. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a layout resource file. Okay, and we'll call this one fragment left. fragment left.xml. Okay. And I don't want a root element, so I'm going to type it all up. Okay. Oh, you're gonna force me to do it anyway, aren't you? All right, so I want it to be a linear layout, just to keep it on the simpler side. Yeah, so we'll just go ahead and throw it in here. Okay, so let's look at the code. I'm going to type the code out for you. And there won't be too much to do in here, actually, because all I'm going to have is just a button and a text view, right? And the other fragment's going to have a very similar layout, so I'll just be able to copy and paste. So maybe I'll just go ahead and keep typing all the code up without even fast forwarding anything. But all right, so let's make this happen. So my orientation, I'm going to keep it vertical, and the layout width, I'll match the parent. The layout height, I'll match the parent. I'll leave that. So we'll just go ahead and stuff. Like I said, it's going to be gross looking. I just want to show you the machinery without, spending any more time than I need to. Okay, so we're going to have a text view. So we'll throw that in here first, and we're going to have an ID for it. Okay, and I need that because we'll call it left fragment text view, right? Because I'm going to programmatically manipulate it from within the fragment. Okay, so we need that. We're going to have Android layout width. We'll have this guy match the parent for the width. Okay, oops. Match parent. And then we're going to have the height be wrap content. Okay, it'll make it easier to see. Okay, on the emulator. Okay, and we'll go ahead and have it initialize to a string value. Okay, just so when it first launches up, we can see that it's got something in there, and then when we click the button, it'll change. That's what we'll do. Okay, so that'll be our fragment, and we'll have to. Oops, I need my name of this attribute here. Okay, we'll add the string here in just a second to strings.xml. You know what? I'll do it right now. Values strings.xml. Okay, so string name equals what did I call it? Hello blank fragment, right? Hello blank fragment left, right? And this will just say I don't know. How about hello left fragment from left fragment? How about that? Okay, good enough. Okay, so let's go back to our layout. Okay, so that's good. Now we're going to have a button. Okay, and we'll have this have similar attributes. Okay, and we have to have the button say something. So how about we call this left fragment button. Okay, and then let's go back to strings.xml, and what should we have this called? We'll call it hello. Oops. Hello. I don't know. We're calling this guy left fragment button. Okay. And what should we have it say? We'll just have it say left button. Okay. That should do it. So let's go back and look at that XML now. Okay, so this is good. So this is all we're going to do, right, for this fragment, right? We just want a button, we want a text view, and that's it. So let's go back to leftfragment.java, okay, and finish what we're doing over here. Okay, so what we want is we want to hook up the text view and the buttons, so that way we can use them, right? So what I'm going to have is I'm going to have a text view reference. Okay, we'll make it private, and we have a button. Okay, and we'll make that private also. Okay, and now we'll go over here and we'll hook them up. So TV equals text view. Find view by ID, r.id.left fragment text view. Okay, so that's going to give us our reference to the text view object, so we can manipulate it. Okay, and then we'll do the same for the button. What do we call it? We called it left fragment button. Left button. Or did we call it something else? Let's go back and take a look here. Oh, I didn't give it an ID. That would be good, wouldn't it? Android ID equals plus ID, oops, plus ID, left fragment button. There we go, that should do it. Okay, so let's go back. Okay. Yeah, so that looks good. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so we got that. Now, the Oncreate view has a view return type. We have to return the view, right? So we're going to go ahead and hit return v. Okay. So let's go ahead and just build what I have so far, just to see if I have any mistakes or anything, and then we'll put the button listener in. Okay, and we'll check it out, see if it works. Okay, so I got something else I need to do here. Oh, I haven't not done yet. I got to go back to the activity and register it with the Fragment Manager. Almost forgot. Okay, so you have this this entity within Android called the Fragment Manager. Okay, and you have to make it aware of the fragments that you built. Okay, it's in charge of managing the fragments, managing the life cycle for the fragments, that sort of thing. You know, so well, you don't know, but that's what it's for. Okay, so we gotta go and put that code in. So we're gonna access the Fragment Manager. Okay, do your import by invoking a method that is inherited from class app.compat activity. Right, see how we're extending app.compat activity, and this is it right here. Get support Fragment Manager. Okay, so that gives us a reference to the Fragment Manager, which we can then use to communicate, right, with the Fragment Manager and say, hey, here's do you have this particular fragment already? Yes, okay, then never mind. Or no, you don't. Well, then here, make it happen. Here's the fragment I want you to process and go. Okay, so to do that, we're going to have to grab the fragment. Okay, and we're going to say to the Fragment Manager, hey, you know, can you check and see if this fragment, if you've already have this fragment, if I already gave it to you or not. Okay, so you want to do that because as the app is running, there could be situations where an activity gets destroyed, they use memory or whatever, but the fragment is still around, and so you know if it's still there, then you know why recreate it. Okay, so r.id fragment left, right? Okay, so that's the ID number, the resource ID number of the fragment that we're dealing with right now. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to see if it actually gave us the reference for it, right? If it finds it, then it's going to put the address for it in this variable. Okay, So we'll check. Now if it doesn't find it, then it's going to return null. Okay, so that means that we have to, instantiate the fragment and then give the Fragment Manager a reference to the fragment object. Okay, so if it equals null, then let's go ahead and create a fragment. Okay, and then we have to tell the Fragment Manager, hey, here it is, take it, we want you to have it, and here's how you're going to identify it. Okay, so we do that by using these things called transactions. And so we invoke a method on the Fragment Manager called begin transaction. Okay, and then you submit, or you invoke the add method, and then you pass the resource ID that you want to assign it. Okay, fragment left, and then you give it the reference. Okay, so that's what we got, but not done yet. Right? If you finished right now, then still nothing's going to happen. Instead, there's one more little piece you have to do. You have to invoke this commit method. Okay, and that basically says, okay, we made the, here you have the information you need for this fragment. Now make it so number one. Okay, so once we have that, then we should be good to go. So let's try again. Okay. Okay, so now you can see the piece, right? So there is the module one, right? That's that submodule that on the left-hand side. That's just the text view and the button. So that's one part of my UI. Okay. Now, if you click the button, nothing's going to happen. Why not? Because I didn't go and add the listener for it. Okay. So let's go back and add the listener for it. Okay, so b.set onClick listener, and it's going to be an onClick listener. Okay, and then let's see here. All right, then we're going to add the onClick method. Oops. There it is. Okay, so on click. So what do I want? I'm just going to set the text to a number. Okay, so to do that, I'll have a variable, which I'll just call I, and I'll initialize it to 0. Okay, and so what I'll do is I'll say tv.setText. The setText method is what you can use to update the text view, right? And so I got to convert that integer I into a string. So just I plus empty string will do it in Java. Okay, then once I've done that, I'll increment, or I'll increase I by 2. Okay, now let's go ahead and restart our app, rebuild our app, and that should get the first major piece of my app, or half my UI done. Okay. Is it finished building yet? Yeah. Okay, so you can see that that part of the UI is functional. Right? So what we need to do now is we need to go and add the right fragment in. Okay. And I'll speed this one up a little bit because it's gonna mirror the left fragment. It's just gonna have different logic to its button, right? So let's go ahead and add a new class here, and this is going to be called right fragment. Okay, boom, and then we'll go ahead and add a new layout here. Okay, and it's going to be a linear layout again. Okay, and this is going to be called what did I call the other one? Fragment left. So this one's going to be fragment right .xml. Okay, so we'll just say okay. Okay, so there's the code. Now this can be very similar, so I'm just going to copy and paste and change, you know, a couple of minor things. All right. Okay, so I need to give these things different names. I don't need to do that. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. So text view, I got to give this a different name, right? So we'll call this what? Right fragment text view. Yeah, that seems good enough. Okay, and we'll call this hello blank fragment right. Yeah, that'll do. And we'll call this right fragment button. And we'll call this right fragment button. Okay, so let's go into strings.xml. Update that. Copy paste. Hello fragment right. Oops. Said hello fragment right. And right fragment button. Okay, so that should fix that. Let's just go double check. Yep, so that's good. So now what I got to do is I got to go to right fragment, and you know what I'll do is I'll just copy and paste left fragment and I'll just edit it. Okay. So this one we're going to call right fragment, and I'm going to have different attributes for this object. Okay, which means that this stuff's going to be different. Right. Actually, you know what? I can name these things, the text view and the button, the same because they're going to be in different scopes. So I'll just go ahead and leave that too. So really, what I have to change here is what the listener is going to do. It's not going to do integers. We talked about that, right? Let's see here. We're going to inflate fragment right, and we're going to want to use the right fragment text view and the right fragment button for this. Right fragment button. Okay, so I was going to have this one cycle through a bunch of strings, right? So let's create a array of strings. Okay, so we'll call this words. Yeah, words is good. And I'll just initialize it with an initialization list. We'll say how now brown cow. Okay, cool. So we got that, and we're almost done with this video, if you can believe that. It's going by a little bit faster than I thought. Hopefully you feel the same. All right, so what I am going to need is, since I'm going to be cycling through it, I guess I do need an integer variable here, which I'll call post for position. So we'll start off at 0. Okay, and let's go ahead and do our set text. But now what we're going to do is we're going to set it to whatever position is in the array, right? So we've got position set to 0 first. So when we first click this button, it's going to change the text view's initial string, right, which was should be hello from right fragment. It'll change it to how, right? And then we'll click the button again and it'll change it to now. And then we'll click the button again and it'll change it to brown, and so forth. And we'll have it cycle right back around to the front. So once we've set it, then we have to increment, or we have to change or update the position variable, right? So we'll just use modulus to do our wraparound, to help us out with this wraparound. Okay, so what did I name it? Words, right? Words.length. Okay, so that'll allow us to cycle through. All right, so fragment 2, right? Second fragment set up. Now what we got to do is we got to go let the fragment manager know about it. So let's go back to main activity, and we're going to have code that looks very similar to what we just put in here. Okay, so let's create a second fragment, instantiate a new one. And I say instantiate, right? But what I mean is we got to ask, we'll do that in a second if we need it, But what we got to do is we got to go through and ask, uh, the Fragment Manager, hey, is this thing already been made? Do you already have it? So fragment right. Okay. And I'm missing something here. Fragment right. Let's go take a look. So let's go take a look in activity main. .xml, fragment left. Oh, I gotta, now we gotta go back and uncomment out this guy right here. Okay. So fragment left is being assigned to this part, right? And then fragment right is going to be assigned to this part. So we got to go back and make that happen. Okay. So that's good. Now we'll go ahead and have that same if statement type structure, right? We're just checking for the existence of the right fragment now. Okay, so let's put that in. And I am trying to go as fast as I can to speed the video up as much as I can. Okay, so bear with me. Okay, so remember this last part is to tell the Fragment Manager, hey, here's who I want you to keep track of, here's how we're going to identify it, and make it happen. Right? Let me see if I can. Oops. Yeah, that's right. So let's see if I can split this up on a separate line so you can see everything at once. Okay. Yeah, there you go. All right. So that should do it for our main activity, right? So I'll go ahead and let you look at the screen here for a second. You can pause the video or whatever. Okay. And let's rebuild it and run it and see if the second part of our UI is now functional. If not, we'll fix it. Looks encouraging so far. All right. Oh, look at that. I forgot to change the text on the button. Right? So, but let's just see if the button actually does what it's supposed to. Yeah, there you go. So how now brown cow, how now brown cow, how now brown cow, how now brown cow. And then the other button, does its thing. Right? So now I have two independent pieces of my screen. Okay, so you got this submodule over here, right? And then that's for fragment 1, and then we got this submodule over here, which is fragment 2. So again, like I said, it was going to be an ugly little app. I just wanted to show you all the pieces and how they can get together. Okay, let's go and update strings here so it actually says the right thing. Okay, so we'll update that, and then we'll restart it. But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to show you, hey, here's the Fragment Manager, here's the main activity, here's the XML files that you need, here's the fragment class, here's the new methods that you need, Oncreate view, all that stuff. So, you can get a feel for the different pieces, and then, you can go back and rewind to different pieces of the video if you need to. Okay, but anyway, so now it's labeled right, left button, right button. Okay, so two independent submodules, subsystems of my screen, right? This is main activity, which is hosting two fragments, the left fragment and the right fragment. Okay, this is the left fragment, and this is the right fragment. Okay, so there's my strings file for you. You've been staring at that. Let's take a look at the left fragment screen. And this is very similar to the right fragment screen. We just have our onCreate method. We have our onCreate view where the logic goes for setting up the widgets in the UI. Right? Got our listener, got our text views here, got to get our inflator here, so that way we can access the find view by ID. It requires you return a view reference, so we got that. Okay, we're extending class fragment. Okay, we got its XML. Okay, this is the XML that's tied to that fragment that gets inflated by the left fragment class. Okay, and right fragment, basically same kind of deal, right? It's just all I did was change what the button does. Right? Uncreate view, create method, and then fragment write. The XML looks very similar. And then, yeah, I think that's everything. So, like I said, we're done here. So let me go back and bring up that thing here. So, like I said, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put a link to the finished project in the description down there. So feel free to download that. It's hosted on my Dropbox, and play around with the code all you want. And Fragments, really useful tool. They're useful for modularizing, taking that divide and conquer approach to designing your UI, and allows for code reuse. Right? There's nothing stopping us from using that fragment somewhere else or in a different app. Right? So hopefully you found that useful. If you did, thumbs up's appreciated. If you didn't, thumbs down. It's also appreciated. And please feel free to leave me any feedback in the comments. It's version 1 of the video, and so I'd really be interested to hear what you have to say about it. Okay? If you're interested, please think about hitting the subscribe button. And if you're a student of mine, feel free to email me, stop by my Zoom office hours to follow up, or my office hours if you have any questions. All right. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.